Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to NCORE webinars. Thank you so much for joining the Southwest Center for Human Relations Studies at the University of Oklahoma for our monthly webinar series. I am Dr. Jenny Rongo. I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Center and Director of NCORE, and I'm delighted to be your host today. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, NCORE offers 2 webinars per month on the first and the last Wednesday. Join us on February 3rd for a presentation by emerging scholars from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst as they present ADOS blank countries in which Black Lives Matter, engaging contemporary intra-racial and transnational dynamics surrounding Black college students. Please visit our website, ncore.ou.edu, for the full list of webinars on demand and upcoming webinars. I welcome you to use the chat box to tell us where you're joining us from. Also tweet, Instagram, and share with the hashtag NCORE webinars, hashtag start the conversation online. It is incredibly important for us to stay connected, especially during these uncertain times. Our panelists today are from the University of Michigan. We have Jane Balise Vincent, the Assistive Technology Manager for UM. Tyne Lucas, Executive Assistant to the Deputy Chief Diversity Officer and Director of Implementation for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Nicole Burnside, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program Manager at the School of Public Health. Steve Vinson, who currently holds a position in the Finance Department and has been leading the University of Michigan Medical Group Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee since March of 2017. We have Tina Jordan, Project Manager, Facilitator, and Learning Consultant in the Office of Organizational Culture and Strategy within the Office of the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer at the University of Michigan. And last but not least, we have Dr. Mary Rose, Program Manager in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Provost's Office. Their topic today is the Forgotten Constituency, engaging staff in campus DEI initiatives. The center is very grateful for their expertise. Please post questions in the Q&A box. They will address them at the end of this presentation. And just a reminder that we have closed caption and we have ASL available for this broadcast. I want now to turn it over to University of Michigan team. Welcome, team.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Rose. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a Taiwanese American 1.5 generation immigrant. I'm a cisgender female with dark hair that is pulled to the side in a braid, and I'm wearing a red blouse today. And as Jane mentioned, I'm a program manager in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Provost Office at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor campus. The presenters of today's webinar live and work on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people. In 1817, the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations made the largest single land transfer to the University of Michigan. This was offered ceremonially as a gift through the treaty at the foot of the rapids so that their children could be educated. Through these words of acknowledgement, their contemporary and ancestral ties to the land and their contributions to the university are renewed and affirmed. So if you work on a higher education campus, I don't think this is a surprise to hear that attention is most often paid to faculty and students and not so much on staff and the needs and experiences that are specific to this constituency group. Staff provide essential services, interact with faculty and students, and are often unrecognized workforce responsible for the overall functioning of campus. Staff comprise a majority of the campus community in terms of headcount. At the University of Michigan, for example, we have about 49,000 total employees, and about 71% are staff and 15% are faculty. And to provide an example of the diversity of positions represented by staff, our HR system categorizes staff into 26 job families, including the trades, library and museums, government relations, service maintenance, communications and marketing, public safety, athletics, academic and student services, hospitality, and research centers. So for these reasons, staff play a large role in establishing and maintaining campus and unit climate. And last but not least, staff are also leading campus diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives. And the last 2 points are particularly relevant for campuses and institutions that have a strategic plan for DEI, as is the case at the University of Michigan. Today, we've gathered a group of staff from the U of M to share their experiences leading staff engagement initiatives within the larger context of our campus-wide DEI strategic plan. Their presentations will illustrate the role of staff in campus DEI initiatives, their experiences as staff leading DEI initiatives from a variety of different campus units and DEI leads roles, and also highlight some staff-focused DEI engagement activities and strategies. And we hope that given the broad array of examples and experiences shared today, that you'll walk away with an idea or an insight that resonates with you and the situation at your campus. So before we continue, just a few points of housekeeping. Please use the Q&A window to pose your questions, and we will try to answer them over the course of this webinar. And also, please contact NCORE or any of us directly if you're interested in a copy of the slide deck. And we do have a screen reader accessible version as well. So first, just a brief background on University of Michigan's 5-year DEI strategic plan, which provides the context that our presentations and experiences are drawn from. You can visit our website at diversity.umich.edu for more information, or feel free to contact me directly. Our campus-wide DEI strategic plan has 3 overarching strategies. The first is to create an inclusive and equitable campus climate. The second is to recruit and retain and develop a diverse community. And the third is to support innovative and inclusive scholarship and teaching. So the next 2 infographics show some of the key elements of our DEI strategic plan. After a planning year of gathering input from constituencies across campus, U of M launched our 5-year DEI strategic plan in the fall of 2016 with 49 campus units who each created their own unit-specific DEI plan that align with our overarching campus-wide plan. And so this year, we're in the middle of our final year 5 of this 5-year strategic plan. And note here, it says 50 unit plans, which is different than what you saw on the previous slide, which said 49, because over the course of these 5 years, we've had a few campus units close or drop out or join this campus-wide strategic plan effort. And the infrastructure that supports the central implementation of our campus-wide DEI strategic plan includes monthly DEI leads meetings, professional development opportunities, and an annual reporting process on the progress of all DEI plans. So there are a total of 6 presenters today who will share their experiences and examples of the diversity in their roles as DEI leads, as well as their successes and challenges in engaging staff as part of our campus-wide DEI strategic plan implementation. So here we are. This slide just has the pictures of the people that you will hear from during this webinar. And I'm really excited for you all to have the opportunity to learn from what we've learned And I really hope that you all can take something away from this webinar today that you can apply in your institution. The panelists will speak from their experiences ranging in the size of the units they represent, whether it's an academic versus a non-academic or an administrative unit, and whether they serve in a dedicated or what we call a full-time DEI lead role versus when the responsibility of being a DEI lead is just a part of their current role. And since I already have the mic, so to speak, I wanted to highlight the role of staff affinity groups as a valuable DEI engagement strategy for staff. I'll share the example of our APITA Staff Association. And APITA stands for Asian Pacific Islander Desi American and is an umbrella term intended to be inclusive of the broad and diverse Asian diaspora. And Desi is another broad term referencing many who identify as part of the South Asian diaspora. So APITA staff account for about 9.8% of university employees. And our group is relatively new, having started in 2017, and is a part of the coalition, which includes the staff affinity groups for Latinx, African American, and women of color groups at the university. We are a volunteer organization that is not officially sponsored by the university, and that is by choice. That is something that we are still discussing internally and weighing the pros and cons of what university sponsorship might entail. And the APITA Staff Association has been a critical third space for me for professional development and where I can find a sense of community and support, especially during the pandemic. We have 4 core pillars to what we do in the Staff Association where we use the acronym of RACE. So that would be, the 4 pillars are resources, advocacy, community, and education. And some of our initiatives include a research project looking at institutional data on APITA groups, raising awareness about anti-Asian hate and racism related to the pandemic, and working to address anti-Black racism within our communities. So thank you for allowing me to highlight the role of staff affinity groups as an important DEI engagement strategy for staff. And I would like to welcome our next presenter, our next panelist, Jane Burles-Vincent from ITS.
Thank you very much, Mary. I'm just getting my screen up right now. And I'm going to be talking about the Passport program within Information and Technology Services. My name is Jane Burles-Vincent. I'm the Assistive Technology Manager within ITS. I'm also a former ITS DEI implementation lead. I'm a white cis woman with dark hair pulled back, and I'm wearing a pink jacket over a purple turtleneck, and I am delighted to be here. So a snapshot of our ITS program. Our vision is that U of M will be a leader in the appropriate use of technology among its peers and throughout the world. Our 2019 statistics are that we have 657 employees, of whom 21% identify as a member of one or more racial or ethnic minority groups, and that is up from 19% just 8 years ago. We also have a wide variety of other representation, including individuals with disabilities. Our DEI team has 1 half-time paid staff member. The rest of the team, approximately 30 individuals at this point, are all doing this as a volunteer opportunity. So how does DEI and information technology intersect? There are a wide number of ways. One obvious one, and the one that is controlled by legislation, has to do with accessibility, making sure that what we offer is accessible to people with individuals with disabilities. That happens to be my day job. We want to make sure that our offerings are equally usable by people for whom English is an additional language, as well as individuals who may not have had a great deal of previous experience with technology. We want to make sure that our databases and our other information sources are correctly reflecting people's pronouns. We want to make sure, especially during these pandemic times where everybody is very heavily relying on ITS, that we are accommodating people in situations such as not having a very good Wi-Fi access where they may happen to be working from. And we also want to be cognizant of design situations, such as the fact even the digital technology, such as Fitbits and the digital readers used to monitor the blood oxygen of individuals affected by COVID have not been designed to appropriately work for people who have darker skin. So we really want to look at digital DEI in a very broad way. So there has been some research on the importance of a diverse ITS team, looking at things such as the fact that a diverse group of employees can address a number of team issues such as power imbalances or people simply following a leader without thinking. They can also look at, we're also looking at the fact that diverse teams can reflect our diverse community. We have people from all over the world at We have a wide variety of people represented, and we want to make sure that our ITS offerings are reflecting that. Some other ways that DEI awareness can impact an IT organization is to improve customer service. We have a phrase in ITS that we're not following the golden rule, we're following the platinum rule, which is that we are serving people in the way they would like to be served. So if we are aware of common situations that people may be in, we can provide the best possible service. We are looking to improve our internal communication within our teams, and we are looking for individual empowerment. We want to make sure that ITS team members feel that they're being given respect and that there's flexibility to accommodate the variety of life situations they may find themselves in, especially now. So one way we do this is through our ITS Passport program. And the Passport program is adapted from a similar program in our Business and Finance department. And you're going to be hearing from Tina Jordan in Business and Finance a bit later. But the idea of the Passport is to create destinations of information. And each destination has multiple types of activities so that people have a variety of different ways to learn about sometimes general and sometimes very specific DEI topics. The way it works is that new destinations are posted monthly. Each destination focuses on a specific topic and has various relevant activities. So people can read articles, people can attend events, people can watch videos, and all of these will count toward their participation in the Passport. To complete a Passport destination, staff will check off that they have completed at least 2 activities, and they also have the option of entering their personal reflections. These reflections, these writings will only be visible to them. So after they have completed a destination, they will receive a stamp, and at the end of the fiscal year, each participating staff member will receive a certificate of participation. So a typical destination is becoming an ally. This is one that we had recently. The activity starts with quotes from Robert F. Kennedy and from the entrepreneur Chris Gardner. There's a definition of what an ally is. And then there's a list of suggested activities. And this ranges from an event called Becoming an Ally that was held during the month that this was the destination. There's a video to watch called The Better Allies Approach, Everyday Actions to Create Inclusive Workplaces. 3 articles that were part of this destination were for women and minorities to get ahead. Managers must assign work fairly. An article on gender identity in higher education, and an article on 5 ally actions that people could use to learn ways to create a more inclusive workplace. So at the end of the destination is the travel journal. And again, people can write whatever they wish. It will only be visible to them. They can go back and revisit that, or they can simply type the word complete and then click on the submit button, and they will get a stamp for that month. Passport destinations have ranged from the very general, inclusion, compassion, to very specific, such as Black History Month, Women's History Month, and mental health. The impact of the passport in fiscal year 2020, 128 staff members, or 19% of our staff, completed 1,074 activities. Our 5-year goal is for a quarter of our staff to have completed activities. 320 stamps were earned by these participants. And in fiscal year 2020, other activities included providing new trainings on social identity and becoming an ally. We sponsored a virtual watch party for the annual University of Michigan MLK Symposium. And there were 2 very well-received discussion panels featuring LGBTQ+ members of the ITS department. So if you would like more information, again, I am no longer part of the CORE team, but the CORE team's email address is its.diversity@umich.edu. And I am now delighted to turn things over to my colleague, Nicole Burnside, in the School of Public Health.
Thank you, Jane. My name is Nicole Burnside. My pronouns are she and her. I'm at the School of Public Health, and I serve as a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program Manager. I have Black hair, Black eyes. I'm a cisgender woman, cisgender female, and I'm wearing a Black shirt and a Black jacket. Today, I'll talk to you about the School of Public Health unit and our structure, the alignment of the campus DEI plan to our school's diversity plan, and the components of the school of the University of Michigan School of Public Health Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion competency. So the School of Public Health is an academic unit. We have approximately 400 research and administrative staff total. And the DEI team is made up of myself, which is 100% staff member dedicated to DE&I initiatives, and 2 faculty diversity leads. As Mary mentioned, we are all a part of the University of Michigan 5-year strategic planning effort. Today, I will focus on the University of Michigan strategy to recruit, retain, and develop a diverse community, which was direct alignment with the School of Public Health goal to create a continuing professional education system. The components of the continuing professional education system are how the DEI CPE was developed, constituency group for the policy, how staff can find programming, locate workshops, and also record workshop attendance. We are all lifelong learners, and at the School of Public Health, we want to build a community that allows the opportunity for staff to bring their authentic self. So over a 2-year span, our dean, associate dean, department chairs, department administrators, and diversity, equity, and inclusion committee at the department and school level created a policy for continuous diversity, equity, and inclusion skill building. Once finalized, the policy was approved by our executive committee, and we launched this in 2017. So who is involved? The policy is for all staff with 0.75 FTE or greater to complete annually 8 hours of diversity, equity, and inclusion training. The excess of 8 hours achieved can roll over into the next year. All programming should align within the competencies listed in the policy, and I've listed those here on this slide. Staff have the flexibility to work with their supervisor to determine the type of programming to further their diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. The school and department DEI committee will host workshops, and we also share workshops external to the University of Michigan and our school. In 2019 to 20, we hosted over 100 programming opportunities. Some types of programming we offered were lectures, book clubs, staff retreats, and a film series like seen here, such as the event series is held over the lunch break with a debrief segment that aligns the content in the movie to our DEI competencies. While working from home, we've encouraged our community to take advantage of books, podcasts, and the mini movie series that we offer at our school. Our staff can locate workshops that count towards continuing professional education by viewing our events page, our weekly newsletter, bi-weekly newsletter, event digest, and our intranet, where we keep all of our, a repository of our diversity, equity, and inclusion offerings and other documents. Each staff member with their direct supervisor is responsible for allotting 8 hours annually of CPE participation. Staff members will log title and number of hours in the staff merit system. Supervisors are responsible for informing new and existing staff of expectations, encouraging participation, and assessing completion during performance review process. After each workshop, each participant receives an evaluation where they can evaluate the contents of the workshop along with facilitators. And these are just some quotes that I shared today from our community. In addition to individual feedback, we also look at in addition to individual session feedback, the DEI team also annually reviews evaluation to capture the type of workshops that are being attended by our community. This allows us to plan for the following year and to kind of engage staff participation. So some lessons learned in our first few years is to integrate trainings into pre-existing learning forums to allow staff to work together, determine a tracking mechanism and learning goals for cohorts, for example, for managers, supervisors, non-managers, but want to grow forth in a leadership role, and also remain flexible for offering workshops that meet various educational needs. We want everyone to be empowered to create their own diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. And this 8 hours is just our commitment that we all will remain lifelong learners. And I would like to thank you for joining this afternoon. If you have any questions, please place them in the chat. And now I would like to turn you over to my colleague, Steve Vinson from Michigan Medicine.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Vinson, and I work for Michigan Medicine, which is the University of Michigan's health system. I am a Black male. I use he, his pronouns. Today I'm wearing a magenta shirt with a blue vest and a tie on, and my background is a sunset overlooking our cardiovascular center. Today I'm going to be talking about our ambulatory care, our University of Michigan Medical Group DEI program. And just for context, when I say medical group, that is our outpatient or ambulatory care service within Michigan Medicine. And just to level set, wanted to give you an idea about our ambulatory care scope of operations. We have over 50 locations with 150 ambulatory outpatient clinics. We have 13 clinical segments. So a clinical segment could be primary care, surgical care, specialty care, radiology. We've done over 3 million visits, exams, procedures, and tests in our last fiscal year. And that includes roughly 6,000 staff members. So we're presented with the challenge of providing a DEI program supporting a very department-wide regional network of individuals, employees with many different clinical segments, with different clinical objectives and different physical locations. So how do we go about doing that? So we first started with our leadership, and in order to have any successful DEI program, you certainly need the support and the sponsorship of leadership. And so we started from that space. The leadership helps hold individuals accountable, and we try to ensure that our leaders are accessible to our group that's leading our DEI program. The second is creating a vision. And we did that in alignment with the University of Michigan strategic goals that Mary talked about earlier. And then we formed our own strategic goals with respect to how we envision our DEI program benefiting our staff and the patients that we serve. And then we moved on to our DEI committee. We wanted to make sure that we had inclusive representation. So we have individuals from each of our 13 clinical segments on our committee, in addition to administrative staff and other individuals who are pertinent to our mission. So for example, we have an HR business partner on our committee. We ensure commitment, and we do that by standing committee meetings. We have monthly meetings, and we have subcommittee meetings that are also standing. And then lastly, our committee really takes advantage and leverages the partnerships that we have across Michigan Medicine. So we have an Office for Health Equity Inclusion, which is the broader Michigan Medicine DEI office. We partner with them. We partner with our organizational learning group, which is our professional development department. We partner with our community health services folks. So leveraging those partnerships to accomplish your DEI goals is extremely important. Based on the goals that we formed when we're working on our charter document and doing our planning, we formed 5 subcommittees. Each committee member must serve on at least one subcommittee for our Michigan Medical Group DEI committee. These are the 5 committees that we came up with based on our objectives. So we're focused on communications, providing DEI related communications to all staff, all 6,000 across the 150 clinics. We came up with a DEI driver program that's really focused on cultivating a network of leads throughout our clinics, throughout our 150 clinics, a training and education committee or subcommittee that's really focused on a pathway to help folks learn in the DEI space. We have a metrics committee that's focused on our DEI dashboard, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And then we also have a programmatic committee that's really focused on health equity, social determinants of health, transgender services, and community engagement. So with respect to communications, we have a website. We created a website. Again, this is an intranet, so it's not public facing, but this is just some of the sections that we have on our website. To the left, we have some of the affinity groups that Mary talked about earlier. We have our membership and our scope and our charge. Additionally, we have some resources, some online learning modules. For example, if you've heard of Steve Robbins, he has some about 25 quick short videos, inclusive insights. So we have access to those, plus campus-wide resources. And then we have the collection of our monthly communications. So we send out a monthly newsletter to all of our constituents. This is the latest newsletter we sent out in January, talking about a new year, new opportunities, new beginnings. We highlighted the symposium that was done campus-wide. Other resources that we have in our newsletter would be what training and education events are going on across campus. We have some ally resources. We put a spotlight on our DEI leads, our drivers every month. We give folks bulletin board materials if they have a DEI bulletin board, and then we have an interactive DEI learning calendar for folks as well. Our DEI driver program. So again, these are our staff volunteers who champion DEI at their local clinic. None of these individuals are paid. This is just something that they're passionate about and they do on their time. Part of the program is they develop action plans. Typically, they have 2 or 3 goals per year to focus on. One of the other things they focus on is training and education. So they could facilitate at their ACU, which is an ambulatory care unit, or their clinic, or they could request facilitation of training and education at their clinic. So for example, requesting a bystander intervention class or an unconscious bias workshop. And then they are also responsible for circulating that newsletter throughout their local level clinic and partnering with the managers, the operations managers on DEI strategic initiatives. Our goal by the end of 2021, we started this program in 2018, is to have a driver at each one of our 150 clinics. Some of the benefits of our driver program, we established a Google Drive for them. So they could share action plans on the Google Drive. They have idea sharing. We have a contact list so they can reach out to other drivers and maintain that network. We have a toolkit for them that we established to help them get started, give them some ideas about communication, ideas about activities that they can do at their local clinics. We established an email listserv for them so that they can communicate amongst themselves. We have biannual webinars. This was really created by the pandemic and understanding the need to stay connected while having to be physically separated. So we have biannual webinars for our drivers. Each year, we have a recognition and networking retreat for our drivers. And then they also have access to this DEI dashboard that I mentioned earlier. Our webinars, we go over the driver role and we review that. We talk about the Google Drive, we get them acclimated. Again, an opportunity for networking and best practice sharing. We also give them updates on system-wide initiatives that are going on. For example, we formed an anti-racism oversight committee for Michigan Medicine last summer. So we'll give updates from that subcommittee and we allow time for Q&A. With respect to our retreat, the major thing is we have leaders represented there and make sure that they are recognizing the drivers. It's great for those individuals to hear leadership appreciating them and attending an event that's there to recognize them. We have guest speakers from across campus and panel discussions on DEI relevant topics. We have the drivers create poster boards and display them in the lobby of the venue that we used for the retreat. We have group activities and networking, again, reward and recognition. So this is a picture of a driver receiving a reward for Driver of the Year. And then there's, every good retreat has to have food and beverage. So we provide that for our drivers and our participants as well. And it's also a time to really celebrate our partnerships across campus. So the dashboard that I mentioned before, if you have an opportunity to utilize that at your institution, it's great to have metrics to support the business case for DEI. So we are thankful and blessed to have a dashboard that we use within Michigan Medicine. We are able to stratify some of our metrics by race, gender, and generation. We have staff demographics. We have hire rate, termination rate for these different categories, and also culture scores that we get from our employee engagement survey. This also can be broken down by department, by clinic, by job class, and job family. So we really encourage our drivers and our ops managers to utilize this tool to help with workforce planning and improve their DEI climate within their local unit. So some of our accomplishments that we've realized the last couple of years, again, we started our driver program as a pilot in February of 2018 with 7 clinics and about 15 drivers or leads. Currently, we have over 100 drivers throughout 75 clinics. And again, we have 150 clinics total. So we're about halfway there to our goal. Our newsletter has over 1,000 opens per month. So we're happy that folks are opening that up and taking a look. We've implemented online workshops and learning modules, again, pandemic influenced as common practice. And we are creating an education track for folks as they go through that lifelong learning journey that Nicole talked about. And then lastly, we have an ongoing project, which is analyzing the data from our DEI dashboard to demonstrate quantifiable support for the DEI business case. And we've submitted an abstract for that. So that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Tyne Lucas from the Provost office.
Thank you, Steve, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tyne Lucas, and I serve as the executive assistant to the Deputy Chief Diversity Officer for the university. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Black female with dark shoulder-length hair, and I'm wearing a black and white striped shirt with a black blazer and dark glasses. So as Mary mentioned at the outset of today's session, I'm going to share my experience engaging staff in a small administrative unit. And I'll start by walking you through some of the challenges we've encountered, including some that were specific to the pandemic. And I'll talk about how we overcame those challenges and end today with some key takeaways that I believe are important to engaging staff. First, I want to give a brief description of my unit and how my role as a DEI lead is structured. I serve as a lead within the provost office, and that is the unit responsible for the academic and budgetary affairs for the university. We have 64 staff in our unit, and I work on the DEI plan that is focused specifically on the culture for those 64 staff. My role as a lead is voluntary, and it's in addition to my full-time position. And I also work with 2 co-leads who both do this work on a voluntary basis as well. The support structure for our DEI plan consists of 3 overlapping teams that assist in developing DEI programs, policies, and procedures for the provost office. The first is myself and my co-leads. We make up the core team, and we're responsible for designing and implementing action items that help to achieve the strategic objectives within our plan. We are also responsible for reporting on our progress toward goals in our plan on an annual basis. Second is our Provost Office DEI Committee, and that's made up of our core team and 2 members of our senior leadership. And this committee vets the action items that are developed within our core team and strategizes about the best ways to engage staff and effectively leverage our provost to reinforce the importance of our DEI work. And lastly is the Fleming Administration Building DEI Committee. That committee consists of representatives from all of the units within our administration building. And although all of those units have their own DEI plan, because we're all relatively small units and we only have staff constituencies, we partner and build critical mass and pool our funding to host DEI events within our building. So within the provost office, there were 3 main challenges that we faced to engaging staff. And the first challenge was gaining leadership buy-in and support. We had a particularly challenging situation due to turnover within our leadership, because each time there was a change, we lost some momentum with our DEI plan implementation. And our second challenge was prioritization of DEI work. And that was on 2 fronts. So first, from the standpoint of myself and my co-leads who are doing this work in addition to our full-time jobs, we found it challenging to find the time to implement our action items and report on our progress while still maintaining our regular job duties. And second was from the standpoint of staff, and particularly our vice provost. All our vice provosts have several units that report into them, and they have very busy schedules. So it was difficult for them to find the time to participate in DEI activities. And then our last challenge was the positionality of our DEI leads. So myself and my co-leads are all in support positions within the provost office. So it was difficult for us to get our staff to understand that DEI is not just about feel-good activities that are optional, but it's really something that's important for everyone to participate in, and it's vital to the overall success of our team. So how do we overcome these challenges? We started by building a relationship with our leadership team, and we did that through standing meetings where we talk about our DEI efforts and how to move forward. I know that may not be feasible for everyone, so if you aren't able to get a standing meeting with your leadership, what I would suggest is that you start with asking for time to speak about a particular DEI project, and that could be your first step to developing the relationship over time. And during that conversation, you might also have an opportunity to speak more broadly about your DEI efforts and make a case for greater leadership support. We also stressed the importance of leadership modeling the behavior that's expected of staff. So that meant communicating that DEI is a priority, implementing performance measures related to DEI, and our leadership attending as many DEI events as possible. In this past year, we had an average of 67% of our staff participate in our DEI activities, and that was an increase of nearly 30% from the previous year. We attribute much of that growth to leadership encouragement and participation. So that just gives you an example of how impactful and important leadership support can be. And then overcoming the challenge of prioritization of DEI work. So as leads, we did this by setting aside an hour each week to work on our DEI action items. Any work we're not able to complete within those meetings, we divide it between us, and we work on it where we can throughout our regular work week. And in terms of addressing the way staff prioritizes DEI, definitely leadership support and modeling goes a really long way. But if you find that your staff aren't able to make time for standalone activities, you might consider using an existing meeting for DEI engagement. And in that case, I would recommend that you add DEI as a standing agenda item. And you can use that time for a number of different things. You can use it to highlight DEI events, gather feedback from your staff, have DEI related discussions, or if you can dedicate an entire meeting to DEI, you can use that time to host a training or a workshop. And then lastly, overcoming the challenge of positionality of the DEI leads. So because we didn't have built-in credibility due to our positions, we had to really work to build out that credibility. And one of the key ways that we did that was by communicating clearly and consistently. So what we do is we plan out our DEI activities for the year, and we then draft a calendar that outlines the communications that will need to go along with those activities. And what that does is help our work to appear well organized, well planned, and it builds familiarity with our staff. So they've come to expect DEI communications from us, and our schedule of activities is predictable and easy for them to plan around. And another thing I'll mention is that we propose all of our events to staff calendars. So it's not a situation where they're opting into coming to the event. It's already there, it's on their calendar. So if they don't want to participate, they're opting out versus opting in. You should also determine when it's appropriate to have leadership communicate versus you sending a message. And our process has been to have leadership communicate about any significant changes to policies or procedures related to DEI. And we as the leads communicate about events and activities. Follow-up is also extremely important. For instance, if you decide to collect feedback from your staff, it's important that you follow up in a timely fashion and you communicate how you'll use that information. Otherwise, your staff may be hesitant to give you feedback in the future. And lastly, you want to make sure that you are showing value in your work. So we've done this by staying aware of any climate issues within our office, and we deliver targeted events and programming that has tools to address those issues. And for those events, we clearly define what the objectives are, and we try our best to make sure that the content meets those objectives. It's also a good idea to conduct evaluations so that you can have that information to adjust and continually improve on your DEI work. So as I begin to wrap up, I just want to briefly touch on some of the challenges we've had around COVID-19. So when the pandemic hit, the first thought for us was, how do we keep DEI as a priority for our unit and continue to do this work in a remote environment? Like many of you, we also experienced budget cuts. So that required us to postpone or cancel events. So we had to quickly pivot to make sure that we accomplish our goals for the year. And all of that was compounded by the social unrest and health disparities that were brought to light by the pandemic. And that really magnified the importance of DEI work, but it also created some additional demand for us as DEI leads. And then Zoom fatigue also became a challenge. As more virtual meetings were scheduled and everyone got used to the new normal, the number of meetings went up, and so Zoom fatigue definitely became an issue. And lastly, we all know that emotional and mental well-being has been a struggle for everyone this past year. So some tips I can offer to deal with those challenges is, one, be creative in adapting your content. What we've done is offer Zoom film screenings over the lunch hour, similar to what Nicole spoke about. We also open all of our discussions with music to set a relaxing and inviting tone. And we keep all our sessions interactive by using tools like Poll Everywhere, breakout rooms, and icebreakers. And over the summer, we developed and launched a series called DEI Alive, which stands for Active Learning in a Virtual Environment. And what that is a monthly engagement series where we email out short articles or videos that are between 5 and 20 minutes long. And the following week, we hold a 1-hour virtual discussion about the material. We had a particularly successful DEI Live session following the George Floyd incident. And the material we used for that session was the 7 Last Words of the Unarmed. That's a multi-movement choral work about 7 Black men who were killed by police or authority figures, and it's performed by our U of M Men's Glee Club. Because we knew it would be a difficult topic for our staff to discuss, we encouraged them to share their thoughts or feelings using pictures or a poem or just a few sentences that expressed how they were feeling, and we had them send it in advance of the meeting. And then those contributions were brought together into a slide presentation that was viewed in silence during the session as a tribute to the lives lost. So what you're seeing on the screen right now are just some of the submissions that we received from that session. And I also wanted to share the feedback that we received. So I won't read all of these, but I'll just read the one to the far right. So it says, the meeting offered the chance of a breakthrough for some participants and having a place to openly listen, watch, and talk about these issues. So DEI Live really has been a successful engagement series for us. Our staff see it as a place to decompress and just share their thoughts and feelings around the social unrest that we've been seeing with their colleagues. So we've definitely had some great success. So what are the key takeaways? First and foremost, having leadership support. That is critical and it's foundational to doing DEI work successfully. Second, you want to make sure that you show value and provide relevant programs that are achieving the stated objectives. And lastly, be clear and consistent with your communications. Make sure you have the right people communicating the right message. Thank you so much for your time today. If you have questions, please do put those in the chat. And now I want to hand it over to our final presenter, my colleague, Tina Jordan in Business and Finance.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am standing between you and question and answer and time to go. So I'm happy to be able to share with you some information about what we've been doing in our organization. First, I'll introduce myself a little bit more. So I am Tina Jordan. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a white cisgendered woman. I have very short dark brown hair with lots of gray, and I wear glasses. Today I have on a geometric print shirt and a maize-colored cardigan. I am a project manager, a facilitator, a learning consultant in the Office of Organizational Culture and Strategy within the Office of the Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer. About 75% of my role is focused on DEI, and I serve as the DEI lead for the Business and Finance organization. Business and Finance is 2,700 plus employees, all staff with the exception of some student workers at the University of Michigan, and our motto is we make blue go. Our organization does everything behind the scenes to keep the university running and to steward the university's physical, financial, and human assets. Business and finance let's see, I can't get my slide to go. There we go. About 3 years ago, leaders in business and finance decided to make positive organizational culture our priority goal, with the knowledge that doing so would benefit our staff individually, our teams, the business and finance organization, and the university at large. A few key aspects of positive organizational culture are connecting teams to purpose, focusing and building on what is going right in the organization, and building high quality connections and relationships between staff. Our vision is to build an organizational culture in which staff at all levels believe that what they do matters and that they can make a difference. And our goal is to create a positive organizational culture that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. We could spend a lot of time talking about what positive organizational culture is, but here's a quick definition from one of the founding researchers, Bob Quinn. He says, a positive organizational culture is a place where people are flourishing as they work, and as a result, they exceed performance expectations. Research overwhelmingly shows that organizations that have positive organizational cultures and leaders that practice positive leadership create a work environment with many benefits, including more engaged employees and organizational success. So some of the examples of positive culture building efforts that we've been doing in our organization are, first, one of the things we did was enlist the support of staff that we call positive energizers to help us with our culture change efforts. And this is a group of about 180 staff throughout our organization who are committed to bringing positive change to their teams. The Positive Energizers' first effort was called our 90-90 Challenge, where their goal was to reach 90% of all BNF staff within 90 days to provide them with positive culture information and encourage them to make a 1% positive change to improve their work culture. We continue now with many challenges, providing the Positive Energizers with resources and activities that they can then share with their teams on specific topics like gratitude, compassion, empathy, etc. Another thing we've done is that we've developed DEI resources like toolkits and message templates and done educational sessions, etc. And we've shared them with our leaders for their own development and to share with their staff. We have a monthly BNF leadership forum where the top 3 tiers of leadership gather together each month. And during those sessions, we've been focusing on DEI and positive leadership topics with guest speakers, activities, etc., to help our leaders practice positive leadership skills. Another positive culture building effort we've done through the pandemic is that we've revamped, or actually this is before the pandemic, we revamped our employee engagement survey to measure our efforts to improve our DEI culture and our positive organizational efforts. So we have, key findings that we specifically are measuring over time. And then during the pandemic, we've provided resources, especially to our most vulnerable staff, like lists of contacts for local organizations providing help, tips and tools to manage mental health, and resources for childcare, etc. One of the biggest things that we did to promote a positive organizational culture was called the Purpose Project. The Purpose Project started out as an effort to take pictures of BNF teams working so that we had photos to use in our website articles and other communication collateral. So we thought that, taking pictures would also help us to be able to connect our individuals and teams to purpose as we did our communications. So a couple years ago, we hired 2 students to do this work, Chelsea and Aaliyah, who both were graduating from U of M with degrees in the arts. We spent the summer going all over campus, meeting BNF staff and taking pictures. Aaliyah and Chelsea were amazed at all the ways that BNF makes Blue go and enjoyed the opportunity to get to know so many staff. Before this project, they had no idea what went into helping them be successful as students at the U of M and the significant role business and finance had in their success. So that's when the project changed. Instead of just capturing pictures, they wanted to show appreciation to the BNF staff. So they wrote what they called a love letter to BNF, and they used it as a script for a video. We had taken over 1,000 pictures of BNF staff, and about 100 pictures were used to make the video. And while not everybody could be included, the video is meant to represent all of BNF. Now, when you watch this video, put yourself in the shoes of a staff person, a person in the forgotten constituency, as we say, who historically has not been recognized by faculty, students, and administrators at the university. Let's take a look at that video. Give me 1 second to move my screen around and get the video going.
So in film, there's a philosophy that the audience should never see the effort, the struggles, the late nights, to never know what goes on behind the scenes. And as students, we didn't know everything that went into making Blue go. It was too big to perceive the unseen forces that bring us prestige. What does it mean to make Blue go? Helping students pursue excellence, supporting patient recovery, faculty endeavors, and researcher discovery, passion for the work through tough situations, creating solutions, inspiring innovations. You are victors through collaboration, fostering the next generation. You uphold our legacy of excellence, unfazed by a setting or rising sun. You put in work when others are done. No matter cold, warm, or hotter than that, wearing polo, lab coat, or hard hat, in front of, next to, or behind a desk, together, you represent the best. You provide security and promote health, generating a community of emotional and intellectual wealth. As we walk the campus on a solitary course, you hold keys and unlock doors. You make Blue go on the daily. Passion for technique, attention to craft, your love for the smaller things carves a remarkable path. You push to grow and support those around you, volunteering for humane causes, advocating for other purposes too. There is community within your workplace, displaying trinkets and fashions, trading jokes and meals with immense spirit and passion, depicting those important to you, baby pictures and wedding photos, doodles from kids, sharing mementos of family and home. Now we see instilled into every detail is the spirit that has allowed us to prevail. From the first day until now, this little city, your commitment propels. To help sustain the legend that is Maize and Blue, you are the ones we look to. And to whom a million thanks are due.
Okay, ready, go.
Go. Yeah. Look where we are. This is so cool.
There's such nuance in like what they do and the services they provide. We're about to take a picture. See that flag right up here? That's where he's gonna be. He has to climb up. He has special equipment on. It's cool to see how they affected like all the things that they did for students. You guys are really cool. Do a lot of hard work, and we are learning to appreciate your role here at the university.
Yum, yum, yum. Plums at the farmer's market.
So good. we have to say goodbye. Okay, so last selfie on 3. 1, 2, 3. And we actually took it.
Okay, so there is the film that Chelsea and Aaliyah made, and you saw Chelsea and Aaliyah starring in it at the end. And I want to just talk a little bit about the reaction that happened when folks saw that video. So it was really powerful. And the students first showed the video at the BNF Leadership Forum, that monthly forum that we have. And so they shared it with the leaders, and we have to say there were a lot of tears in the room even. And so it really touched the people who were there. Then we asked the leaders to fan the video out to their teams, and we provided with it a toolkit that included a PowerPoint with some background information about the video and a link to the video, and then discussion questions that the team could talk about. It was a super successful project, and the feedback that we received from our staff showed that individually and as teams, they felt more connected to their purpose and were better able to find meaning in their work. They felt proud of themselves, their colleagues, our organization, and the university. They got to see the many different ways our organization works to support the university, because our organization is large and some folks will never see or know what other people do in our organization. They were able to get to know some colleagues that they'd never seen or known before. And also they felt really seen and respected and valued by the students. So this video has since been shared outside of our business and finance organization in many areas across the university and even with our regions, and it has generated a lot of positive emotions. Because the Purpose Project was so successful, we have continued to do video and other projects with the goal of showing appreciation to our staff and connecting them to our purpose. And while we had professional students with professional equipment in this case, we truly believe that a project like this could be done by a novice with, an iPhone and a camera and maybe some simple video skills. So thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share this with you. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jane for our Q&A time.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really do appreciate this presentation, because I always say the staff in any organization, and particularly in higher education, not only do we make the blue go, but we really are the oil that runs the engines of these universities. So if you haven't appreciated your staff, I hope that this video has inspired you to appreciate your staff, especially in D&I work, as the forgotten constituencies. They do not want to be forgotten anymore. They want to be part of the action, and they are part of the action. So if the panelists can turn on their cameras so that they can respond to some questions that we have here. So, and this can go to any one of you. So most of the presenters are talking about how much the DEI support is through volunteer work. I understand we all have financial struggles, but if universities have included D&I initiatives in their strategic plans, why is it more prioritized? Why is it not more prioritized and supported by funds? You see, it's all about the money. Can any of you talk to us about how University of Michigan is providing support through funding or not?
Sure. I think that was a great question. Thank you for whoever posed that question in the Q&A window. I think one thing that came to mind is the fact that we are a decentralized campus. So the emphasis being on every unit being able to design their own plan and implement it their own way. And so that's part of the reason why for this webinar, we wanted to show everyone kind of the array of the different ways that these DEI lead roles happen, and also, appreciate the diversity in the units and the challenges that the different types of units might face. So there are some units who do have a full-time dedicated, chief diversity officer, chief program diversity officer, like I said, or a DEI lead whose full-time job is to see to the implementation of their plan or to help facilitate that implementation process. And then there are others, like Tyne was talking about, how it's part of her job. So what that means is it's something that you worked out with your supervisor and you're doing during work time. So I think that the things like the staff affinity groups, even as my professional development opportunity, is something I speak to my supervisor about. And I spend some amount of my time every month dedicated to that as part of my professional development. So yes, there's always more need, and we are having conversations about when we transition into our DEI 2.0 process after this first DEI plan is done, how we can learn from these 5 years and where we might want to more strategically focus our resources and funding. I also just wanted to share that one of the action items, the central action items that we had in the plan for addressing staff needs specifically, was to create a staff ombuds position. And we have one for faculty and we have one for students, but we never had one for staff. So this DEI strategic plan effort gave us the opportunity to allocate resources, centrally, to create this office. And as I understand it, as soon as that office opened, there was, a 6-month wait list. And so the demand is great. And so definitely, as we are rolling out these various initiatives, we're learning a lot about what is needed, and we're having conversations among the leads community around, how much effort it takes and what is needed to provide the support to the leads to do this work. But definitely and as the people joining this webinar are probably familiar with the amount of effort and heart and passion that it takes to do this type of work, and know that it's not easy. So definitely want to make sure that people are supported in this work. Tina, did you want to?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that just a little bit in saying that, one of the things that our executive leadership, our president, did at the beginning of this effort was to create an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And so we have a central office. We have a chief diversity officer. We have a deputy chief diversity officer. Tyne works very closely with them. And in addition, they committed $85 million to this programming over the course of 5 years. So they really were putting their money where their mouth was. Now, there's a limit to how much funds we can do, right? So we can't fund every DEI position, and various units have different budgeting constraints and et cetera. But, there was some financial backing that was put forth, and this staffing resource, right?
So we all understand, we come from different organizations, and whereas most of us would want to be at the University of Michigan or R1 campuses, some of which, have a lot of funding, we understand, and somebody has posed this question here, there are universities where DEI office is one person team. Staffing is a challenge. So how might you suggest one person office or under-resourced offices articulate the need of additional paid team members? How do we advocate for more resources for these very stretched thin offices? And sometimes maybe it's just a volunteer and they have another full-time job.
I can begin to answer that, and then my colleagues can jump in. But I think one of the important things is to help leadership understand that doing DEI is just not a nice, or just not the right thing to do, but there's actually return on investment. It actually is the best thing you can do for your organization. But until leaders see that, they may or may not put forth the resources to promote this kind of effort. So that's just one aspect that I can think of. I'm sure my colleagues have additional thoughts.
I think
Yeah,
another, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, I was going to say, being strategic in how you're planning your work or what you want to propose to your leadership as well. So thinking about your own job description and where there are aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion that you can integrate within your current position. And then the things on the outset when you have your merit review or other reviews of the organization or your performance at the end of the year, you can show this is what I accomplished and this is what I could accomplish with additional support. So you're making the case, you're building a strategy and making the case why it's needed, but you're integrating into your regular practices.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it's important to just build consensus, right? Get some co-liberators out there and present a united front to your leadership. And I think there's strength in numbers with respect to that. I think Tina is absolutely correct. There is a return on investment, and the data is very clear out there. The more diverse teams that you have, the more innovative you are. The more diverse teams you are, the more creative solutions that you have. And if you value diversity, and if the employees feel respected and valued, they are going to be more productive. You're going to reduce absenteeism. All of those things have a financial impact, as well as just creating a better culture for your organization.
And somebody here wants to know any other suggestions on how you show value. People are always wanting to do D&I work. They are doing D&I work in addition to other work. So how do we show value to that invisible labor that most people are involved in, and it's not compensated through money or certificates? So how else can we show value?
So I can start on that question. I think, one of the key things is making sure that you are providing something that the staff find value in. And so one quick thing that you can do is just ask the staff. And you can do that, simply through either sending out a Google form with a few questions, or even simply doing an email. So getting feedback from your staff and figuring out what matters most to them, I think would be one step in the right direction.
Any other member who wants to respond to that? How do we show value to folks who are working in these areas?
In our work, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
I was going to say, Mary identified some ways earlier, allowing staff to use their work hours to work on DE&I initiatives. So not making it more than a 40-hour job, seeing what we can pause, and then also looking at places to integrate again. Since diversity, equity, and inclusion is a part of us, and it's not, as Tina said, a feel-good thing. It's more, this is the return of creating diverse teams. People are more satisfied in their position. So thinking about that from a management standpoint, how do you value your employee contribution by giving them opportunities to succeed in other professional development ways that will enhance their skills in diversity, equity, and inclusion? So when we talk about the diversity, equity, and inclusion journey, people are all on a different journey. And so we try to help people find workshops that can complement their work skills, and not so addition to, but it also the manager's job to take things off that may not enhance that DEI skill. So evaluation of that.
We do have another, okay, go ahead, Tina.
I was just going to add, just to reiterate something that Nicole said. In our organization, we have many DEI leads and DEI committee members. I'm the only paid staff. But what we do is we really promote this as an opportunity for professional development. So we sort of make it something that you can put on your resume.
So in other words, encouraging folks to do this work, but incorporate it in their everyday jobs, and the supervisors making sure that, you know, they are valuing that and they are communicating that this is valued, especially during a performance management reviews or meetings, etc. So Cara Dean wants to know, how have you centered BIPOC staff in these DEI initiatives?
I think it very much varies by unit. So again, want to direct people to our diversity.umich.edu website, because from there you can see the listing of all the campus units who have different, you know, who post their plans, and you can contact their DEI leads, and also just kind of get more further information about what each unit is doing, because I think everyone takes pride in trying to develop initiatives and programs and activities and events that really speak to their communities within their unit. At the central level, we do have this past year, just from all of the, you know, the social unrest and seeing the disparate impacts of the pandemic, I've seen a lot of units, and also centrally, really taking on a new commitment to addressing anti-Black racism, and, you know, just trying to figure out how can we do this? Is it through providing trainings? Is it, we have a new initiative to, I think, do a hiring cohort of faculty who whose research and work center around racism. And I'm sorry if I'm not speaking to it correctly, but if you visit the Office of the Provost page, there's a press release about that. And so, you know, I think it really, again, just depends on the different units, and just trying to get a better detailed sense of what they're doing, because there are lots of efforts happening across campus, as well as centrally. And then also, I just wanted to comment, kind of related to the previous conversation, just really emphasizing the importance of the fact that we have leadership support for this DEI strategic plan. It's a presidential initiative, and that makes all the difference, you know. So all of these, the technicalities that we think about in actually trying to implement some of this, you know, creating a new position, how do you carve out the time in an existing position to do this DEI work? None of this is even possible if it weren't for the fact that we communicate it campus-wide, that this is a value that we have as a university. This is our commitment, and having to just, you know, communicate that across the campus so that everyone is aware that we're all trying to do something. This impacts everybody.
Steve, you had something
on that. To piggyback on what Mary is saying, is that with that leadership support, there is accountability, right? We don't just create DEI strategic plans, but we all have to give a report every year as to how we did with those plans. So Steve, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to Kara's questions about centering BIPOC. So Michigan Medicine has created an anti-racism oversight committee. We did that last summer. It was initiated by two things, basically. Our White Coats for Black Lives Matter, our student group, basically sent a letter to our executive leader for Michigan Medicine. And also we did a staff survey and got some input from staff across Michigan Medicine. So we've really focused on a lot of different initiatives, from speaking up and showing solidarity, diversifying our workforce, community health service, you know, making sure we're providing health equity. So a bunch of different, you know, kind of strategies across the anti-racism space. But I think that's a great question, because I think we have to be careful for balance in terms of what we're doing across the DEI spectrum. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of focus right now on anti-racism, but there's a lot of other marginalized communities right now that we're not paying as much attention to. And so I think we just have to kind of keep our pulse on that and make sure that we're not overlooking marginalized communities And then there's even a little bit of a micro resistance to some of the Black Lives Matter as well. And so I think you just have to be aware of that as we're doing this over the next several months.
So maybe this is our last question, and I'm going to incorporate two questions in one. We all know that this work is important. We know that universities, we know even our current USA recently elected president is talking about racial equity, D&I work. But somebody is asking here, Charlene is asking, how do you deal with the pushback? She is from a very small town or community. They are trying to recruit more faculty of color, diverse faculty and staff, but there's a lot of pushback. And then I had seen somebody talk about this being a huge infrastructure at the University of Michigan. Most of us don't have that privilege. And how do you deal with this? What can you advise? How to start the programming, to create the infrastructure, and that kind of a thing? Anyone?
So you're asking if we have any suggestions on how to get your university to adopt a campus-wide 5-year DEI plan?
Exactly, but also how do you deal with the pushback? Because we know DEI work is good, but we also know we have a lot of naysayers and people who don't want to see this work move forward.
Mm-hmm. I think that leadership really plays a critical role in this, and it's that at the highest level of our university, there was a commitment to do this work and the resources provided to try to do this as best as we can. And, you know, as we all know, this is such a complex environment that we're working in. And so I can't even think of one thing that can operate by itself that would make it successful. It seems like you have to have so many different things happening over time to really, you know, build up the support, to educate people, to align with priorities, to consistently advocate for change. And I think that is where the staff affinity groups play such an important role, because they're not specific to unit and they're not tied to any particular, you know, initiative or position. And there's really an opportunity there for people to be able to let newer people coming into the university know about the work that has happened, and just trying to continue to move that momentum to making change. And so a lot of it is, I think, work that people have been doing on campus that's just unknown, you know, people working within their units, trying to push for these changes and at the central administrative level. And then you're all working and then hopefully aligning with some kind of political moment or some opportunity. And in our case, it was with the hiring of our university president, Mark Schlissel. And when he came in, he started this initiative and said, you know, we're dedicating resources and we're going to do this, have this plan for 5 years, and we're going to try this and we're going to see what we can learn from it. And thankfully, he's also committed to continuing this effort for another 5 years. So we're going to undergo a transition period where we're going to try to look back and learn from what has happened and what has worked well and what hasn't, and try to make those adjustments and have that inform DEI 2.0.
I would just add one more thing if we have enough time, just patience and persistence. This work, you have to be patient, make time for mental health, and also along the way, build the business case within your role and your position. And when I was in a smaller unit, I would give new data every time. I would say, oh, did you know? Could we try? And it was persistent. And as you noticed, I said it took 2 years to get the CPE established. That's because we were talking to multiple people. We had to make a lot of modifications to the policy. We had community input and people wanted to change the competency area. So 2 years is now established, but you can't think that you're going to have an idea and it's going to be up to, you know, someone's going to take it up immediately. You also want to think about like I said, I think about the community advocacy and how when you're in a community and you want to build a core, maybe find one other, it might be a small institution, but find one more ally that can help you in this work and build that small coalition that then could grow. As all of us are on here, the call today, I don't know if we met each other before the strategic planning, and now we lean on each other for everything inside building our plan when we have challenges within our unit. And so if you find one other person on campus that say, you know, I want to do this in my unit as well, just work with that group and start where we always say, start with your circle of influence and then go from there.
So build a coalition, build the infrastructure, get people to support you. Remember that support will start at the top. People will hear from your president, your provost, your supervisors, and yourself continuously. And I like what NCORE said, be patient. Cultures don't change in a flash, but persistence will help change. And I know we have other questions, but unfortunately we have run out of time. But this tells you that this is a very, very important topic for all of us. And I wanna take a moment to thank our presenters. If you could just drop a thank you in the chat for the team from the University of Michigan. Go Blue. Thank you so very much for joining us. From Norman at the University of Oklahoma, we want to thank you so very much. And on behalf of the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity in American Higher Education, I want to thank you so very much. I also want to thank all of our attendees. Thank you so very much. We had over 160 people attending today, and all of them were very, very patient. I also want to thank my team from NCORE, Corey Davidson, Stephanie, Josephine. I want to thank our team from Sorenson, our ASL teams, our closed captioners. Thank you so much, everybody. I want to remind you that this is going to be available 5 to 10 days. We shall post this on NCORE webinars on demand. But I want to encourage you to contact the panelists if you want to talk to them directly. Their names are on our website. Contact them, ask questions, maybe invite them to speak at your campus. I think this is a very, very helpful conversation. So thank you all so very much. And from Norman, Oklahoma, goodbye and keep warm.